Hey guys, DibtheAwesome here to give you another Monster Legends Guides, where I talk about monsters' moves, rune sets, partners, all that jazz. Today we are talking about Watinhart, the second legendary monster you may obtain in the Guardians of the Earth Progression Island event. So what does this guy do? What's the benefits to running him? I'm going to tell you that today. I'm going to tell you the partners, playstyle, all that jazz, all the works, the 411, you feel? You feel, man? Alright, so we're going to get right on to it. So for power, 3,421, really solid power, really awesome power. A little bit under the gospel power, though, 465. Not too low. It's anything. It's a few numbers off. That's fine. If you have a really high rune or you're running 2 strength runes, it doesn't matter too much. Life. Sorry, like I tried. It sounded like I was going to continue on with that power, but nah, we were pretty much done with it. For life, it's 30,763. This is a pretty tanky water monster. It's been a while since we've had one of these. Looking at the wheel of legendaries. This is monsterlegendswiki.com, by the way. If you're ever looking for any monster info needs, this is the site you go to. Give you all the info you need. So to look at the list, the last, pretty much the last tankish water monster, at least the oriented in terms of just focusing on tanking, would have to be I don't think Chill Bill. Drill Bill's more so of attacker. I think it'd be all the way to Lord Mammoth in terms of any style of tanking play. This guy is pretty much the next lineup for that. In any form of like tanking, if you see any form of tanking, I think the last kind of tanking playstyle we would see would be Lord Mammoth, for his ability to heal 40%, give us shield, and I think he gave a damage boost to it. He has several. He's like an attacking shield. He has a self shield. I think that's the last time we really saw any defensive play style. In all honesty, so this guy, what does this guy do in terms of tanking? You'll find out later. But just to let you guys know, this is a great life, and especially for a defensive monster, which you might use this guy for mostly. You can also use him on attack too. I think this is a great life. Can counter quite a bit of things, since he's not brittle. He's not naturally brittle, which is nice. The speed is 3,399. This is Varna speed. When you look through this guy's get, you can realize this guy's pretty much a Varna counter. If like anyone using like Varna, this guy's a pretty solid counter to it. Simply because he's naturally immune to freeze, and B, you'll realize later on he can make things very weak to water attacks. He's the first monster capable of making things weak to water moves. It's not the first time this has been a thing. The first time this has been a thing, though, since in terms of just elemental weaknesses, was magnetizing. But nowadays, with all these new elemental weaknesses stuff, from Shalinar from fire, Plymouth from nature, the Keeper can do magic and metal, or well, the metal doesn't change it a bit, but the Keeper can make 80% more damage to magic attacks. This is pretty much 80% more damage to water attacks. What Watinhart can do, we'll realize that later, but just to let you guys know, this is a great tank breaker. You can pretty much make anything weak to water attacks, and then proceed to gain an advantage back. You'll see that later in his kit. But right now, this guy's got Varna speed, so kind of running a speed rune is kind of mandatory on it. You should be at least running 1 speed on it. And then the other thing was, it wouldn't be a crime to run 2. I'll get more into that later, but you'll see why later. But we're just going to continue on. Just know that the speed is kind of slow, but not too slow. Yeah, so immune to freeze. This guy is immune to freeze. This gives a indefinite amount of counterplay specifically to Varna. Pretty much anything that just relies on freezing. So pretty much Varna. I don't know if people use White Walker anymore nowadays. Sifrunus, he's pretty reliant on AoE freeze, but he can do AoE not AoE stamina drain. He can do a stamina drain move, so not too much reliant on that. But pretty much things that have AoE freeze, like so H2O Delirious. I think Mystery has some freezing, but she's more so possession stuff too. Pretty much anything, but pretty much water stuff that can freeze. he's got a good advantage over. Not all of them, obviously. Frostbite, 100% damage rate on 2 moves. Not the obviously there are counters to this thing, but you get my point. General things that like old stuff that was reliant on AoE freezing doesn't really work on this guy. This guy is pretty good against freezers. So he's also good in Krampus fights. I will say that this guy's great in Krampus fights in terms of protecting himself, just getting life back. Obviously, the status things are still a problem. He has 2 moves that cause 2 status effects, but he's immune to the freeze. He's immune to his mainstream deny, which is helpful. I think this is the only thing that this guy can't really counterplay though is when Varuna when he gets his ultimate, whenever he has his ultimate up, he's got the AoE stun up in terms of his ultimate, and when he chooses to single target him with the 4-turn stun. I don't really like that move all that much, but it's a stun. It's another form of restraint. Cavenfish can AoE stun him. AoE stunning in general stops this guy, because he does, he's obviously, since he's immune to one thing, the other thing's always weak too. This guy can also get possessed, which is also a terrible situation. If this guy gets possessed, he's not having a good day. So yeah, that's a great trait. Immunity freeze is pretty great. In all honesty, I would much rather have immunity to freeze over immunity to stun, because you can chain freeze. Chain freezing's a thing. It's never something I really understand in terms of some people do put Varuna on defense, and the most common deny in the game is freezing. It was just always a mystery to me. Obviously, Varna can be tanky too with that 30% heal, but everybody freezes. Freezing is such a common thing. Yeah, back to this. But yeah, immunity to freeze is pretty what's up. Natural immunity to the most common deny in the game is really great for tanks. If tanks don't get chain denied, they can do their things without having to worry about stuff. This guy isn't immune to chain possessions, so that's not good though. He can be possessed. Chain possessing is a thing, so that doesn't help him much. I just want to say this guy's a crab and an octopus. How cool is that? And he has a shield. Before I continue, this guy kind of reminds me of Braum from League of Legends. Because he's in the lore. He's like he talks about how he nothing about the family stuff. Like he lost his family, but he decides to devote his life to protecting people and the ocean. Pretty much people in the ocean. And he has like the best attitude here. He always does this with the best attitude, and that just kind of reminds me of Braum. And even in the most dangerous times, he brings up hope and strength to the creatures in the ocean. Totally Braum. You can't tell me this is a water Braum right here. This is because shield. This is pretty much a door, but he uses it as a shield. Best positive attitude. Definition of positive attitude right here. Just kind of I like to think of him as like the Braum of Monster Legends, which is funny. So the ultimate, Watery Lasers, deals very heavy water damage, may burn target, regains a 50% shield. This is single target. Obviously, this doesn't do a huge impact to every single monster on the enemy team. This is single based. But this is actually pretty relevant, because if you let's say you ignite them and then get this move, they're dead. Period. There's no getting around it. They're dead after you've used this move. When you do super effective damage at a 65 power range, and you have burning on them, and you now have a shield too. The shield has nothing to do with them getting damaged, but now you have protection. Now you have something that can scale with a life rune if you so wish to put it on them. They take a lot of damage. Period. For something that doesn't for a game that doesn't really a lot of people don't really like life runes all that much. I find life runes helpful, but in terms of especially if it's like a defensive situation, you probably will kill them. that might actually be the result of a fight. Let me get to this here. All right, we're gonna skip skill groups 1 because there's nothing in skill groups 1 that's too major. Antarctic water deals moderate water damage, may freeze target. This requires a cooldown of a single turn, 28 stamina, 45 damage. I will say this move might be of great use to you. It's a single turn cooldown. Granted, this doesn't do any good against the freezing effect. Doesn't do anything good on a defensive water monster, because usually a defensive water monster on the enemy team is usually immune to freeze. That's usually the situation. People usually put things like Cavenfish or like Kalik, or like, you know, if you get into a Varna situation, then you can bring this guy. Then, I mean, like, use that move. This is effective against Varna, especially for when I talk about the next move. But you know, you get my point. The effect doesn't really work too well in terms of things immune to freeze, but when you combo this move with the next move, it does a lot of damage. The damage output is there. Which is Rainbow Warrior. Deals heavy special damage, makes enemy very weak against water attacks. This requires a cooldown of a single turn, 50 damage, 28 stamina, and it's 95 accuracy. So basically, the bread and butter is always going to be this. You use Rainbow Warrior, and then you use a water attack of your choice. We're going to get onto the rest of the water attacks. There's like 2 more of importance. But this is the new combo with this. This is the new monsters new combo, or like it's a new like style. Well, it's not a new style, but you know, it's the first time that any monster's been able to make things ignite to water attacks. So that's pretty huge. It's going to be really huge when there's going to be more monsters with different elemental attacks from different elements. I think that's going to be huge. You can pretty much use this guy with Pixel Leon if you have that. It'll work solid. It'll work really solid. So yeah, again, that's the basic concept. It only lasts for, keep in mind, it only lasts for 2 turns of that of the monster that it's applied to. So that's kind of why you might want to think about putting 2 speed runes on it, because you don't want anyone, you totally do not want any monster double turning it. You want to be able to take advantage of the debuff. If you don't, that's not going to do you any good. You might even just get 1 turn with it. But yeah, you do want that turn. You do want to be able to take advantage of this debuff on the monster you apply it to. That's the point of this monster. You weaken it first, and then you go for the kill. That's how this thing works. 6-pack rings. Deals moderate water damage, requires a cooldown of 2 turns, 28 stamina, 40 damage, and I gotta say, I love 2-turn AoEs. That's just straight up, I have to say it. I love 2-turn AoEs. And it's a 40 damage AoE, and it just combos well with Rainbow Warrior. Let's say you have a Demise, and they have like a water, like, you know, Denier. You can, you know, apply this with Rainbow Warrior. Maybe you might kill them with this move. Totally depends on the situation. But let's say it's like something tanky. You can use this move, and bam, it's gonna be great. Then you can use the AoE move, and it does a lot of damage. You might just be able to just use the double damage with this move and just clear it too. That's also another possibility. But again, this is a really great AoE. Just allows you to do more AoE damage. And you know, if you have a speed rune too, you know, if you're packing 2 speed runes, this will come back up again. Especially if there's no denier left. If you kill the denier right away, there's a chance you can get more turns in if there's more monsters that aren't running more than 1 speed rune. You know, obviously the rule of thumb is you have to be double the speed. But I feel like just like if it's a monster with a lot of speed, that at some point they just get more turns, and that's just the thing, or just another turn in. You know, it's weird like that. The whole turn system thing is just weird in this game. But you know, it's, again, you can, the point of this is you can get it faster up. There's a huge difference between a 2-turn AoE and a 3-turn AoE. The difference is you get it right away. You get it back right away. And it comes back at a convenient time when you actually need it again. And so I see that as relevant. That's really, 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 really relevant. Prestige Oil Spill. This is a 50 damage move, 25 stamina, 2-turn cooldown. This move is very, very great because it gives you lifesteal. So basically, this will probably be the move you use after you use Rainbow Warrior. In the case of the event, you are just severely damaged. Let's say you're just beating the tar out of. This can get you out of that situation because you recover 50% of the damage you deal. So naturally, this doesn't seem any good. Well, if I use this as it is now, I'm only getting 50% back. But if you use Rainbow Warrior, you know, apply that weakness, and then use this move, you're getting way more back. You're doing way more damage, so you're taking, like, you know, you're probably doing more than, like, half of what you would normally do. So you pretty much do, you know, you're doing half, you get half more, so you pretty much might actually get 100%. You basically might get 100% if you were doing if this was just a straight up 100% move. I think that's how this move kind of equates to. You just weaken them first and then use Prestige Oil Spill. You get more back out of it. And it also works extremely more. I'm not even counting like double damage or totem buff. I'm not even counting that, so just think about it. Just totally think about it. You will recover half of the damage you do, so that's what's up. You should totally keep that in mind. That's why you can also benefit from strength runes. If you just decide to do 2 strengths and a speed, it can take advantage of that. You just gotta keep in mind though. Totally keep in mind. You should keep it. You should totally keep it. I'm sorry if I'm repeating this. You do need them to be under this effect. It's kind of mandatory for that to be a thing. So that way you can take advantage of your benefit from this. You benefit from them being weak to your attacks. In fact, all this guy's moves, most of these guys, like all these 3 water moves right here, benefit from this move. You have to run this move. It's very important that you do, and you do apply it. That's the point of this monster. That's how he plays out. He weakens first, and then he strikes the next turn. It's kind of like how Shellin are. So if you have Shellin, you know the point of the game already. If you play Plymouth with the weakness of Natural Toxin, you know the game already. You have to apply this weakness first, and then you go for the kill. That's how this game plays out. That's how this guy works. Rainbow Revenge. Deals moderate special damage, makes enemy very weak against water attacks, requires a cooldown of 3 turns, I'm sorry. 28 stamina, 45 damage. I have no idea why this is in Skill Group 3. This has no reason to be in Skill Groups 3. This looks like something that would come out of Skill Groups 2. I just gotta say, this is really terrible. This is, like... it does apply it again. It totally does apply. It applies. It's another move that oh hey, I can apply this again. You don't need it. This move is very invalid. If this was an AOE, then it would be totally valid. I'd totally have you guys run this move. If it was like that, then you wouldn't have to run Rainbow Warrior if you didn't want to. But this isn't an AOE, and it's actually worse than Rainbow Warrior. So totally run Rainbow Warrior. Don't run Rainbow Revenge. I don't even know why it's. I don't know why they did this. There's no point to this move. It's more of a tax. It's a more taxing move. That's all they did. If anything, they downgraded it. That's all they did from this one to this one. They downgraded. It's not worth running because the buff doesn't even last. I would understand if the debuff lasted longer. If this lasted longer, let's say 4 turns, then yeah, I'd see why they increased the cooldown and then decreased the damage of this move. You just get more time to kill people with your water moves. But no, that's not the case. It's just the nerf version of it. So do not run this move simply for that reason. Reason. And we're going to get to the next move. Gun Shell. Deals very heavy special damage. Gains a 30% shield. Requires a cooldown of 3 turns. 30 stamina. 65 damage. Basically, this scales with life runes, and it's great for like extra guy builds. If you're running the extra guy build, you might want to run this move. You'll just benefit from it. It makes you tanky in terms of the fact that they have to shed off the 30 damage before they can, 30% shield before they can scratch you. And keep in mind, you have lifesteal too. This guy has access to a shield and lifesteal, which is pretty great. I will say I wish this was a tad bit more, maybe 40%, but then that would be a little too strong, I guess. I think it would anyway. But I do wish it was. It would be nice if it was. But it's not. Just simply because once you use Gun Shell, I presume you're going to follow that up with Rainbow Warrior. Because you do need to apply that debuff again. And then you need to do Prestige Oil. You could also run the argument, this is irrelevant because you could just do Rainbow Warrior and then, just do, Prestige Oil just to recover life back. That's also good. That's a valid argument. You can run that argument. I will say you just run this move if you... if it's not a bad move. It's 65 damage. I think the only nitpicky thing about it's a 3-turn cooldown, while everything else here is fairly low. So if you're not too interested in the 3-turn cooldown, don't run it. So what moveset would I actually recommend you guys run for this monster? Ooh, that's actually a really good question. There's a lot of ways you can actually build this guy too. I'm gonna give you a few suggestions. If you guys think of any more, now feel free to tell your fellow man in the comments below of build ideas, what you can run for it. I'm gonna give you the main one first. I'm gonna give you my main idea first, which is the I think when I have you guys run, I'm thinking here. For right now, I'd have you get like if you're like new, if you're just starting out, if you're new to middle class in terms of the competitive scene, in that sense of like everybody's usually just run. Most of the players are running level 5, common runes, base runes. I'd have you guys run the extra guy build, simply because it's it takes advantage of all of his stuff. Odds are this is probably something you're going to be putting on defense. If you do, the extra guy build isn't all that bad. You could run 2 strengths and a speed. You could run since this is going to be your attacker too. If this guy is your attack, you might want to run 2 strengths. I will say if you guys are going to use this for defense, you might want to think about running gunshell. In the case of the event, it doesn't do Rainbow Warriors. Just gotta have that idea. You could also run, as much as I don't want to say it, in terms of defensive build, you could run both Rainbow Warrior and Rainbow Revenge for the doubling the chance of him actually applying the effect and then using a water move. That's probably a terrible idea, but it's just that's something if you're worried about, you could do that. But I think for like the defensive set in terms of an extra guy build, I'd probably have you run the Rainbow Warrior. You should totally run Gunshell, neutral damage, gives a shield. You're scaling off that life rune, Prestige Oil and Prestige Oil Spill, and 6-pack rings. It's just kind of the best set for it. You're not going to really run the Antarctic water. Maybe you should though. Wait a second. Let me think about it. Because again, I forgot to also mention this guy has four move syndrome. So I kind of have to think about it here. If you're running the extra guy build, maybe you should run the. I'll give you a choice. You have the choice. You totally should run Rainbow Warrior and should totally run Prestige Oil and 6-pack rings. I'm going to say the last move is totally up to you. Maybe for a defensive set, you don't need to run the AoE. As strangely as that sounds, you could run the Antarctic Water and the Gun Shell because you're not really all that fast. The extra guy build isn't making you faster, and if you're fighting something that's double the speed, not going to help you too much. In terms of like the I'm just thinking about cooldowns right now. So I'll give you a choice. Yeah, so pretty much Rainbow Warrior 6-pack, Prestige Oil Spill, and your choice between Antarctic Water and Gunshell. It's totally your preference in terms of a defensive build. I think for an offensive build, you could get away with running 2 speeds and a strength rune. Because I don't think you really need, in terms of an offensive build. Okay, this is the player control set. I'd have you run Rainbow Warrior. I'd have you run Antarctic Water, 6-pack rings, and Prestige Oil. This set is to take advantage of. This is totally player control. You don't need the gun shell. I don't think you need the gun shell for player control fights because you are in control, so you will be able to decide for yourself to actually use Rainbow Warrior and then follow that up with Prestige Oil. I'm saying you should run 2 speed runes so you can take advantage of Rainbow Warrior. In the case of you can use Rainbow Warrior if you're stuck fighting the Water Denier. That's why I'm suggesting 2 speed, so they don't double turn you. That's the one thing you do not want to happen is you use this move and you're stuck in a 1v1 fight and you can't apply your debuff. If you can't apply the debuff, it doesn't do you much good in terms of using all your other stuff at your disposal. And I guess I can go back to the argument of running Gunshell. It's kind of the argument, do you want to run the freeze move or do you want to run Gunshell? That's totally up to you in terms of the offensive set. That could be a nitpicky thing. So maybe if you don't have necessarily the speed, you can, you're afraid of that situation, you can just run Gunshell. That's totally an option to do. You can just use Rainbow Warrior and the Prestige Oil together. Totally an option for you. I've run, I use I'm just saying in this, okay, I'm just kind of bringing this up. I have run a monster with similar cooldown rotations, 1 turn and 2 turn combo. That's kind of like Uriel's deal. He has an AoE that does it's a single turn cooldown, and then he has one that does. I pressed escape. Says Delon. Yeah, it is. Okay. I have one that does a single target. It's 1 turn cooldown and a 2 turn cooldown AoE. They pretty much rotate pretty well. I think again, that's just kind of a cooldown thing. This does run on a 2-turn cooldown, so you kind of want to take advantage. You do want the end of the situation where this works. I will say the stronger that strength rune is, obviously it's going to do better. A level 9 strength rune is more than enough to help this thing out. If you do have one on you, that's the best way this thing can help out in terms of this rune set build. I will say if you don't really like this build all that much in terms of 2 speeds and a strength rune, the only reason why I'm having you run, again, the only reason I'm having you run 2 speeds in this build, just so you can keep the debuff on the enemy denier. That's really the only real situation I'm having you run this. This will also this also benefits you in the situation where you do get more where you actually get more turns too. That's totally a thing. If you just totally outspeed somebody, what you could do is you could do Rainbow Warrior, Antarctic Water. You do super effective damage. They miss their turn, and then you can follow it up with another water move, and the game's yours. That's how that could totally work. Another neat thing about this too, is kind of anti-Timeron simply because, especially if you go with the Antarctic Water here, they only run on 1-turn cooldowns. Basically, you just recharge. They're both up again, so you can do this, then go straight to this afterwards. Pretty slow cooldown stuff here. Really nice, really cool. You could run a life rune on it. Here's kind of a tanky build set. You're running, you always have to, I'm going to say Rainbow Warriors is just on every set, because it just kind of makes your ignition thing, makes your moves relevant. You should totally run Gunshell too. Gunshell, Rainbow Warrior, Prestige Oil. And I think you would have to run the AoE, simply for common wars. If you're ever stuck in a common situation, you could run the AoE, or you could run Antarctic Waters for a bit of control for single target, but that's about it. It's totally up to you. For this set, it's more so you're more so focusing on stomaching damage than you are dealing it. You deal your damage in time, obviously. It's not the fact this thing doesn't do any damage without a strength rune. It just means the game's going to last longer. I think that's pretty much what you can equate this to. If you don't really run a strength rune on it, that just means it's gonna take longer to win. This guy doesn't necessarily need to sweep right away because his natural damage is pretty heavy once he has this debuff on you. For the tank build, you could run 2 lives and a speed, or you could run a life and 2 speeds. It totally depends on your rune scaling there. What level of your life rune? Obviously, with that single life and 2 speeds, it totally depends on how high that life is. You might want to run another life if you're running the average show runes of level 5. You might want to run 2 life and a speed. At that point, though, I think you should run just the extra guy build, because then you can take advantage of the lifesteal move when you have someone under Rainbow Warrior. That could be a thing too. Partners, real quick. This monster can actually, if you have things that give it immunity to possession and stun, this will work great for it. So partners like Monster Device, Goran that can clear the debuff whenever he does get stunned. Sarah works with this thing. Again, anything that gives immunity to the other things it can't cover. The one thing that's annoying for a tank is a tank that can't move. That's the one thing a tank hates, not being able to move. So being able to clear the things it can't clear, perfect. It loves it. Do it. This guy would also look great with this monster called Pixie Lion. However the hell you pronounce it. This monster right here, because he's capable of doing water moves too, a 30 damage AoE water move and a 50 damage water move. Plus he can do AoE burning, so he can make things weak to fire. It's totally how you want to. It's totally dependent on how you want to, co-op with this thing. Obviously the Pixel Lion's rune will have to combo with whatever the Watinhart moves is. Preferably you should have Watinhart go first, so immediately after Pixie Lion can do his damage. If you're running I will say if you're running 2 speeds and a damage on Watinhart, and you're running just straight up strength runes, you're gonna do a lot of damage. I mean, Pixie Lion, if you're in the more so damaging build, you're gonna do a lot of damage, or at least to a single target. What else? I think in terms of AoE damage though, if you're comparing the two, obviously this Watinhart will do more because he has a 40 damage AoE. rather than versus Pixel Lion's 30 damage one. And that might not do too much of a damage in terms of just AoE damage presence, but in comparing the two, but single target damage, yeah, you'd be able to apply the same thing as if Watinhart was doing Oil Spill. So that's pretty cool. He might do a little more too because he's running that other strength routine. That could also go into it. Words, complications. I just felt like I just said a paragraph of mumbo jumbo. So to sum it all up, they can combo. They can combo. They can combo each other. Shot to the heart right here. Shot to the heart to the old Watinhart right here. Don't spend gems on him to buy. Better to buy a Varuna, Thedes, or Kevin. Punch to the cahoots. Punch to the cahoots. Poor man. Punch to the cahoots. Man. There's always one of those comments for every monster. Don't spend any gems on this. Just get this OP monster right here. Just don't even get this thing. Get this OP old monster right here. Just do that. Always one of those comments. But anyway, back to this thing. Overall, I think this is a decent monster. If you have any questions on this guy, let me know in the comments section below. If you're kind of confused, or just want a specific answer, for a situation like, Dib, should I put this on, should I use this for attack and defense? Totally depends on your build path and what you plan on putting on him. Then, based on your answer to that, I'll give you an answer to that. To the first question. That's always sorry for the long. Yeah, in this one, I did a lot of funny explanations. So yeah, that's everything you need to know about Watinhart. Let me know if you like this video down in the section below. What's your favorite monster for this progression event? I would love to know. I'm DibtheAwesome. I'll catch you guys later.